Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Cluiche. It's just me, Seamus Brady, and it is episode 12 of Social Media Reacts, a series where I take a look at some of the hottest takes, some of the biggest takes in the GA world from people across the Twitter sphere. This episode and this series is indeed sponsored by Capture Athletics. Big shout out to them. If you need any leisure wear, do be sure to check them out on Instagram at Capture Athletics. And yeah, it was a massive weekend in the GA. Of course, the All-Ireland football quarter-final saw Dublin be eliminated by Galway. Who would have thought that would happen at the start of the weekend? And there were also victories for Kerry over Derry in not a great game, Armagh over Roscommon, and indeed Donegal over Louth. And what I'm going to do is I am going to take a look at all of the best tweets that I saw on Twitter across the weekend from some of the biggest personalities in the GAA. And then drop me down below your comments if you're watching this. Let me know your opinions on the weekend's action as well. So starting off here, we have a tweet in from Lee Costello. So of course, this is the highlight of the weekend, Galway winning over Dublin. Like, I'm from Dublin, massive Dublin fan. But if you're talking purely from a neutral standpoint, what is great for the game? More champions is great for the game. Dublin winning the All-Ireland in 2011, in 2015, and 2023. That's all great because it's, a new team getting their hands on the cup in those years. But you need more champions in the game or else the game doesn't get interesting anymore. Like, you look at competitions like the Premier League. We all know Man City are going to win it more or less every year now. So the GA needs more teams to come along, and Galway beating Dublin was a monumental moment for the championship. And one man who had a big deal to play in that was Shane Walsh. Lee Costello here from the Puke Football Pod. Highly recommend this if you haven't listened to it before. He says, the more I think about it, the more I'm impressed with Shane Walsh. He's 100% injured his hamstring in last week as well. Suspected, lined out today and was magnificent, kicking 7 points and being the main man up front until his injury inevitably caved in. A warrior with the little swords emoji. 100%. Shane Walsh was a walking wounded out there on the pitch for Galway. You could tell he was in bits, yet he just kept going until eventually his hamstring literally looked like it was about to fall off his leg. And that fighting spirit was evident for Galway throughout the entire game, because every time Dublin went 2 points ahead, Galway pulled it back to 1. Every time Dublin went 1 point ahead again, Galway levelled it again. They never ever went away. They fought with Dublin until the last quarter, when they eventually pushed on to get the win. And of course, Jim McGuinness, who had just won with Donegal the next day, was asked about the Dublin versus Galway game. These were his comments here. So he says, Dublin have been amazing for so long, so whenever they get beat, it's a big moment for the championship. And that was Tommy Rooney chatting to Jim McGuinness about how he and his players reacted to Galway's win over Dublin. Now that, of course, Donegal are going into the All-Ireland semi-final to play against Galway, I mean, that is going to be an absolute epic encounter now, because the championship has been shook up by the news that Dublin were knocked out. And of course, Jim and Pádraig go way back. So Jim McGuinness was asked about that as well. He had some funny things to say. He said, if we couldn't win it, I would be delighted for Pádraig to win it. I might send him a cheeky text tonight. And of course, he was talking there. Donegal boss Jim McGuinness is looking forward to facing off against his old friend Pádraig Joyce in the All-Ireland semi-final. And that's it. Like, Jim and Pádraig go way back. Like, they have a good relationship. And I'm sure it's the same way around, that if Galway were to lose to Donegal, Pádraig Joyce would want his friend Jim McGuinness to go on and capture the All-Ireland success. To be honest, I'd be rooting, and genuinely just as a neutral, I would be rooting for any of Armagh, Galway and Donegal to win. Just not even in a hate type of way. It just, Kerry and Dublin have had the championship locked down for the last 15, 16 years. It would just be somewhat disappointing if Dublin got knocked out and Kerry went and won it anyway. If we could see someone like an Armagh or a Galway or a Donegal, who haven't got their hands on the Sam Maguire for so long, win the cup this year, this summer would stand out for a long, long time. Because for Dublin and Kerry, they win so much that when they win, it's pretty much forgotten about very, very quickly. Whereas if Galway win, if Armagh win, if Donegal win, it stands the test of time and it sticks out as being a real summer and a real legacy for those lads involved in the team. Now, moving on to the next tweet here, we have from Cara O'Kane. Oisin Conity building on a growing reputation, one of the finds of the summer. And of course, that is about Oisin Conity's 4 points that he scored against Roscommon for Armagh in Armagh's All-Ireland quarter-final win. Oisin Conity has been bubbling under the surface for a few years now. This season, he has really sprung into life. He looks fantastic. And I expect them to shine in the All-Ireland semi-final against Kerry. I think Armagh are dangerous for Kerry going into that game, especially when you see how Kerry performed against Derry. They weren't the best. It wasn't the best game to watch. More on that later. Going to this now. This next tweet is from Daniel Hussey. He says, just 97,302 at Croke Park this weekend. It is officially the lowest aggregate crowd at the 4 All-Ireland quarterfinals since they were introduced 23 years ago. The GAA has a problem. I mean, stats like that on paper, stats don't care about your feelings. And that is, as Hussey says, the lowest aggregate attendance at the quarterfinals since they were incepted in 2001. So we have to look at that. We have to look at it and say, look, why has that been the case? Is it the championship structure? Is it the lack of jeopardy that we've seen throughout the year? Is it that we're not building enough narrative around the teams so that, like, a clash between Dublin and Galway, people didn't really know that Galway hadn't beaten Dublin in 90 years and that was on the line? Like, last year, Dublin and Mayo sold the place out in Croke Park, 82,300 people to watch the All-Ireland quarter-final. So the interest is still there for the right game. You have to tell the story, as Chael Sonnen says. So there's the what, there's the why, there's the who, there's the where, there's the when. There's the 5 W's that set up a sporting event that get people interested. What, who, when, where, and the key one is why. And why was Dublin and Mayo so big? Because of the last decade of battles between the two counties. There was no real match there that had people absolutely bursting to get in the doors, because there was a feeling of inevitability to it. There was a feeling that Kerry would definitely beat Derry. There was a feeling that Armagh would definitely beat Roscommon. There was a feeling that Donegal would definitely beat Louth. And even though it turned out different, there was a feeling there that Dublin would definitely beat Galway. So that's why people weren't flooding through the doors, because a lot of people thought that they knew the results before it even kicked off. Now, this tweet is really, really interesting. This one is from Cara O'Kane. It's a strikingly similar pattern to Dublin's 2 big championships defeats under Dessie Farrell. Of course, he's talking about Dublin Mayo in 2021 and Dublin Galway in 2024. By 30 minutes against Mayo in 2021, Dublin were winning 9-3. By 28 minutes in 2024, Dublin were beating Galway 9-5. At halftime, it was Dublin's 10 points, Mayo 4. And at halftime, this time, it was Dublin 11 points, Galway 7. So again, very similar starts there, as in Dublin flying out of the traps, but not being a million miles away. And then by 58 minutes against Galway, it was 14-11. And by 63 minutes against Mayo, it was 12-7. And again, that's it, just closing the gap there. And then by full time, it was Dublin 16 points, Galway 17. Full time, it was 13 points each against Mayo. Of course, Mayo reeling them in and winning an extra time by 17 points to 14. There is similar patterns there, and it's a brilliant point made by Cara O'Kane. I made that point on the GAA Hour podcast as well, guys. Make sure to check that episode out, but with myself and Dan Casey, if you have not checked it out already. It's available across Spotify, all social media platforms. Do be sure to give that a bit of a support. It's really important to help us grow in our careers. I really, really appreciate that. But yeah, I was making the point that it was similar in that Dublin would start the better against Mayo and against Galway, but they weren't far enough ahead, so that when Mayo and Galway got the run on Dublin, they reeled them in quite quickly. And in both of those games as well, Mayo probably should have beaten Dublin by more, and Galway should have beaten Dublin by more as well. Both of them missed lots and lots of chances to actually have a more comfortable victory. So very, very good point made there by Cara O'Kane. Now, moving on to the other quarter-finals. So, of course, we have here a tweet from Declan Bogue talking about Derry and Kerry. He says, Derry and Kerry have virtually no time to warm up on the pitch here, as the game here has to be over before RTE show the Angelus. You'd imagine that's a joke, but no. That is only in Ireland that would be the case, that has to happen. But, of course, you can't disrespect the Angelus. So that was why Kerry and Derry were running out really as soon as the game between Donegal and Louth was over. And Kerry and Derry ran out, took their quick warm-up, and then played out an absolute stinker in Croke Park. It finished 15 points to 10 in favour of Kerry. Not a game for the purists. Not even a game for somebody who has never seen the sport before. As Colin Parkinson tweeted here, got this from an extended panel member. He said, imagine a stranger taking a stranger to Gaelic football and describing it as the worst sport they have ever watched in their lives. He says, "We have become accustomed to this since Jim McGuinness changed the game in 2011. There are good moments for sure, but it's not a good watch anymore." So he says the tweet in to Colin Parkinson from his extended panel was, "Living out in Australia here, and my Australian friend was asking me what I'm going at. I told him watching the Kerry and Derry game, and it had the potential to be the game of the year. He came over to watch it because he never saw a football game before. Well, to say I'm embarrassed and ashamed was an understatement. He said it was the worst sport he ever watched in his life. If I was the sponsor of the man of the match in that game, I wouldn't be handing out a trophy to any player on the pitch." I mean, that does sum up. Given that it probably was the game of the year last year, it was really, really disappointing, the standard of it. And that was a sentiment across the board. Like, an hour and a half that we'll never get back was something the Sports Joe threw up. And look, for Kerry, for Jack O'Connor, they won't give a toss. Like, they're into the All-Ireland semi-final, and it doesn't matter how you get there, it's that you get there. But for the GAA themselves, the Football Review Committee and Jim Gavin and the work that they're doing is key, because you have to make it more entertaining. You have to get more bums and seats for people to want to watch these games, because you have to guarantee that they're going to be entertained. Kevin Cassidy echoed that sentiment. He said, "Well, that was a disappointment. Terrible game to watch, but Kerry won't care. Donegal with a massive shout now to go all the way." And of course, Donegal are in the other side of the draw, playing against Galway. Could we see a repeat of the All-Ireland final of 2014? Now, the game was also dirty. It was. The amount of pushes, the amount of shit talking that was going on during the game was very, very noticeable to any viewer. Derry got tagged with it a lot, especially Chrissy McCaig, for the marking job that he was doing on David Clifford. I don't think they will be sending each other Christmas cards at the end of the year. But this tweet is in here from GA Juggernaut. He says, "Kerry having this angel tag and the gods of football, etc. is madly outdated. For all their chat, they are a brutal hard watch. And they have plenty of lads who will leave a bit in after every challenge. A penny for Pat Spallan's thoughts. Hashtag puke Kerry." So GA Juggernaut certainly making their intentions clear with that tweet there. Definitely taking aim at the kingdom. Look, the reality is Kerry down through the years have had some of the best footballers that we've ever seen. And if you're talking pound for pound, Kerry have probably produced the most of the best players that we've ever seen, if you get what I mean. From Mikey Sheehy to Paddy Bowen Brosnan back in the 30s to Mick O'Connell in the late 60s. Like, they have produced some of the best players we've ever been fortunate enough to see or to hear about or to watch on tape of their old stuff, like Mikey Sheehy and the like. But they've adapted to the modern game. And if you're telling me that every other team does the dark arts, Kerry definitely do the dark arts as well. And let's not forget, like, they beat Shane McGuigan from pillar to post in last year's All-Ireland semi-final. They're well capable of engaging in the dark arts as well. And we're going to wrap this up with two funny tweets here. So this one is from Conan Doherty. So it's a meme with Mickey Hart. So he is saying to the Derry County board there, "The only 4 championship matches I lost were against the 4 best teams." Then the Derry County Board responds with, "You lost 4 championship matches." And then, of course, Mickey is staring straight into the abyss. Well, of course, the 4 teams that Derry lost to are now in the All-Ireland semi-final. So that maybe isn't the worst possible way to wrap the year up, given everything. And, you know, Dan was saying on the episode earlier that he thinks that Mickey will stay in the job. I think Mickey is 100% gone. He was brought in to cash in and to win an All-Ireland. They look further away from winning an All-Ireland now than they did this time last year. I think Mickey will be replaced before 2025 season starts. Now, before we wrap up the episode as well, what we're going to do is take a look at the team of the week. So here it was, named here, the team of the week: Shane Ryan from Kerry in goal, Brino Bjoglik from Kerry at right cornerback, Owen Bowen Gallagher from Donegal at fullback, Sean Mulcairn from Galway at left cornerback. Halfback line: Peadar Mogan from Donegal at right halfback, Dylan McHugh from Galway at centre halfback, and Barry McCambridge from Armagh at left halfback. Tommy Dernan from Louth and Michael Langan from Donegal at midfield. Oisin Conity from Armagh, John Marr and Killian McDade then from Galway in the half forward line, and then Oisin Gallen from Donegal, Shane McGuigan from Derry, and Shane Walsh from Galway in the full forward line. Immediately, the one that I'd look at as being slightly hard done by maybe is Sam Mulroy. I thought he was fantastic for Louth in that quarter final against Donegal. But that being said, Donegal were the better side, hence should have most of the footballers in that team. And in terms of footballer of the weekend, I would 100% go for Padder Morgan. I think he was absolutely sensational. Or Shane Walsh, or Killian McDade, indeed. Those are the top three that I think should be up there. For footballer of the weekend, Sean Patton as well was absolutely sensational in goal for Donegal. I probably would have gone for him in goal instead of Shane Ryan. His kickouts were absolutely sensational in the Donegal versus Laos game. Anyway, that is episode 12 of Social Media Reacts here on Cluiche. Massive shout out and thank you to our sponsors again, Capture Athletics. Again, if you need any athletic wear, any leisure wear, check out at Capture Athletics for that. One of the best in the game. So that is the video here on Cluiche, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Leave your comments below to let me know your opinions. And until the next one, take care.